ladies and gents, and welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the P-36G Hawk. And today we're taking on the Russians over Korea. Now the maximum BR for this battle is 3.3, and my first target has just been detected. It's a MiG-3. Flying the Hawk G, I'm honestly not all that concerned about a MiG-3. A lot of people will underestimate exactly how manoeuvrable a Hawk is. The Yak-1 in the distance is far more interesting to me, so while it's a distance, I will take a look at the MiG-3, but I'm not willing to sacrifice too much altitude why that Yak-1 is still in the area, and that's exactly what the MiG has done. It's dove down to the deck. I've only just got a spot back on it. There's an SB-2M down there as well. These are aircraft that I will deal with later on. That Yak-1 at altitude is far more dangerous to both me and my team, and there is now two Yak-1s. So throttling up, getting altitude, and beginning my turnaround. I'm not going to head directly for the Yak. I want to pass by it. Now I'm keeping the Hawk in a gentle climb. I want to gain altitude, but I don't want to sacrifice too much speed. I want to see how this Yak reacts when I get close to it. And it's definitely moving in on my position. Invert and dive underneath. Cut underneath its guns and then take the Hawk straight into the vertical. As the Yak dives down, it loses altitude. I maintain altitude. Flaps during the rollover. Aileron roll to adjust my angle of attack. The Yak goes vertical to continue the engagement, but completely misjudges where I am. Put shots into the Yak as it goes past. Combat flaps enabled. Turn over hard. Aileron roll through the turn and drop back on the Yak 6 again. It's continuing to maneuver. Reposition the guns for the lead. And at this point, the Yak has realised that this is not working in his favour. He dives away, keeps the throttles open. Now there is a second Yak in the area. I've lost track on exactly where it is, so I don't want to sacrifice the altitude. Smart move. The Yak pulls vertical again and tries to re-engage with me a second time. Long bank in the horizontal. As the guns come around, activate combat flaps to tighten the turn. Drop back in on the Yak 6. Take the lead and control bursts. Another good hit. This time the Yak doesn't seem to be diving away. Banks over hard left and then reverses into the right and pulls the plane into the vertical. This is a fatal mistake. Presents me with both his wings and both fuel tanks. Set him on fire, and that's my first kill of the match. Now at this point I just continue to track the Yak for a few moments. I want to make sure those fires do secure me the kill. I know fires have a tendency to go out, and there we go, the Yak is down, so I'm searching for next target, and I've got one directly below me. Well actually I have three, the missing Yak-1, the missing MiG-3, and an I-153. The Yak-1, still most dangerous aircraft of the three, so I go for it first. However, the Yak-1 seems to have seen me coming. He's opened up the throttles and he's trying to break out a gap, but I have dive speed on my side, so I'm slowly reeling him in. And it seems the Yak realises this. He's starting to pull for altitude. This is allowing me to close in, but does give him space to manoeuvre. A little under 600 metres off target. As always, gun convergence is set to 400 metres. Yak dives down for the valley, and then pulls sharply into the vertical. This presents me with a perfect opportunity to fire, pull the trigger, rake the top of his aircraft with fire, and somehow manage to hit the central gear leg underneath his aircraft. Combat flaps and throttles back to 74%, pull in on his 6, however he is well inside my convergence, pull vertical directly on top of him, continue the rollover, and the Yak pilot seems to be trying to stall fight with me at this time. He's definitely got his throttles pulled back. I think he's hoping for an overshoot. It's not going to happen. Get another good hit across both wings. He tips the plane over, and with him diving towards the ground like that, I thought I actually had him, so open up the throttles, pull back into the vertical, but he didn't go down. So I'm too close to manoeuvre on him at this time, so pull the plane into a tight horizontal turn. This will give me enough space to be able to safely re-engage. Unfortunately, the team's F4U pilot has seen the opportunity to drop in. He opens up with his 50 cals and lights the Yak-1 up like a torch. So only a kill assist for that engagement. Now that engagement left me at low altitude, so start pulling the Hawk back into a climb. I want to make sure I've got some altitude and some energy before I begin the next set of engagements. Looking at my ammunition at the moment, I'm down to 171 rounds of 50 cal, but I've got 1400 rounds of 7.62, so I'm going okay on ammo. I'm probably good for one, maybe two more engagements, depending on how well I aim. Now my engine is currently overheating. I'm really not concerned about that with the Hawk. It can stay in an overheated state for an extended period of time before the engine fails. The Hawk is also one of those aircraft that, should I get an overheat timer, a simple 2 or 3 seconds with the throttles at 0% will drop the aircraft back down to, at the very least, amber, if not back to white condition. So the next target I was looking at is the Su-2, however it seems to be pulling out of the area extremely quickly. However, that I-153 is about to pull directly underneath me. It is, well, not what I would consider to be a particularly dangerous aircraft on the enemy team, at least not providing you don't try and turn fight with it. It is, however, the closest available target, and it is going to have to be dealt with at some point, so I may as well deal with it now. Dive from the vertical, take the lead. He doesn't actually seem to be aware I'm making a move on him. Shots go straight in, set him on fire, pull straight back out to the vertical, go for altitude, and just let the fire do its work. And for those that are wondering, I'm using Omnipurpose in the 50 calibers. I actually can't remember what I'm running in the 7.62s. I think it may be Omni as well. I know I selected the belts that had the most reliable incendiary rounds, which is why I'm setting everything on fire. I've stacked my belts to try and light people on fire. And that's my second kill of the match. The I-153, not a particularly satisfying kill, but at least it serves as a replacement for the yak that I lost earlier. And at this point, why the Russian team is winning on tickets, they're winning because they had a larger number of attack aircraft. At this point, there are actually only 3 aircraft left in the match. There's this Su-2 directly in front of me, and IL-2. The SB-2M is currently out of my range, but it's on its way back to base, and fighters are moving to intercept it. The Su-2 is heading after the SB-2M and about to fly into most of our team. The IL-2 is the last aircraft in the area. So the IL-2 turned in to engage. I immediately took the Hawk into the vertical and the IL-2 moved to follow. This puts the IL-2 in an extremely vulnerable state as it has just burnt almost all of its energy in a long vertical maneuver, and it's not going to be able to regain it faster than I can in the dive. This allows me to turn straight onto the IL-2-6, start putting shots in. First critical hit on target to the elevator, which does almost nothing. Continue peppering the aircraft with 50 caliber fire. Down to 52 rounds in the 50 caliber machine guns and over 1,000 rounds in the 7.62s. This is actually an issue as the 50 cals are really the only reliable guns for killing something like an IL-2. So I've done a second critical strike to the elevator at this point, and of course managed to hit the central gear leg. For those wondering, the hitbox on the central gear leg does seem to be too large on almost every aircraft that has one. Now at this point I'm now out of 50 caliber fire and I'm down to 380 rounds of 7.62 and dropping rapidly, putting more and more shots in. Starting to take AAA fire from Soviet ground forces, so putting the aircraft into a dive and doing some gentle maneuvers to throw off the aim of the guns on the ground. I don't want to get taken out by flak, that would be rather embarrassing at this point. 252 7.62 rounds left, continuing to spray them off, more hits on target. Line up for the next burst and take the lead. Now I am 100 metres outside of my gun convergence at this point, but the shots run true, hit the target, but somehow my guns jam on that last burst. 152 rounds left in the guns and I can't use them. So at this point there is actually nothing to do but go home. And unfortunately at the speed of low tier aircraft on the Korean map, flying back to base like this with so few aircraft remaining, this is pretty much the end of the match for me. But all those critical strikes were finally rewarded. The IL-2 goes down trying to avoid the F4U that grabbed the Yak-1 kill earlier on, and I get the kill for it. So that brings me up to 3 kills total for the match. From this point on, I actually do manage to make it all the way back to the runway, get a repair and a rearm, and start making my way back into the battle, but unfortunately the last aircraft went down before I saw combat again. So results for the match. Second place for the team with 3 kills and 1 assist. Yellow Jacket and his F4U takes the lead with 4 kills and 2 assists. Ground Forces Rescuer X2, Professional X2, Shadow Strike Streak X2, Wind Streak X3, Soft Landing and Balancer. Soft Landing is an interesting one here. I'm not entirely sure how I managed to get that. 27,620 Silver Lions would have been 39,629 if I had a premium account, and 1,455 base research points. And I also managed to re-unlock the engine injection that was removed from a large number of aircraft in War Thunder just recently. I think if I'm remembering correctly, this has been the 3rd time they've had to respade the Hawk since it was added to the game. But anyways, ladies and gents, that has been the Hawk G. It is an incredibly fun little aircraft and one that is almost constantly underestimated. It's actually a very dangerous plane if you know how to take advantage of its abilities. Anyways, ladies and gents, hope you enjoyed the video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more. Fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.